Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land you job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hey guys, Virginia Franco here. Today I have with me Adam Morgan, who is the co-founder of SC, a specialized technology staffing firm focused on recruiting in specialized technologies, including digital marketing, robotic process automation, software development, cloud, and data and analytics. He brings to the table over 30 years of technology experience across management, sales, consulting, M&A, and development. But prior to his work with SC, he served on the executive team at Session through its acquisition by Mastercard, Sitecore through its acquisition by EQT Partners, and then Microsoft, where he successfully completed 2 acquisitions. So, Adam, thank you so much for joining me and welcome.
Thanks, Virginia. It's an honor to be here. I love your podcast.
So, thank you. So, heard a quick overview of what I understand you do. Tell me how you came to be in the role that you're doing now, and tell me a little bit more about what SC does.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm the co-founder of SC, which means I wake up every morning super excited to basically make people's lives better. That's a motto we adopted as a company, and we mean it in that the right job leads to the right career and the right lifestyle and so on. And so we feel like it has a ripple effect towards everything that makes someone's overall life better.
I love that, yeah.
As you said, I've been in the technology space for a long time, having worked at Microsoft and built up and sold 2 digital marketing companies, Sitecore and Session M. During that time, we were constantly getting asked by people, or my team was constantly getting asked by people, where do I find talent, right? Where do I find the right developer, the right architect, the right content strategist, you name it. We got these requests every day. And so I approached a buddy of mine from the gym, who is now my co-founder, Rich Bywater. He had built up and sold off a staffing company previously. And I said, hey, you know this recruiting space. I know digital marketing. I need your help. And I pitched him on the idea of starting a staffing firm focused on marketing technology. And so the business started in the gym. And so we still try to work out together 1 to 2 days a week at a minimum.
Oh my gosh. And you and I met at the gym.
Exactly.
Your coworker. That's so funny.
The gym is the bond that connects all.
There you go. There you go. So you probably work with all sorts of different job seekers, right? From CTOs to, I imagine all the way down to developers, no?
Yeah, we really do. We work, you're exactly right, from executives all the way down to individual, developers, architects, and so on.
So are there a couple of challenges that you see that are common to the people that you are placing, regardless of their level? Yeah,
great question. I guess the good news is, let's start with, this is a phenomenal, at least for the spaces we focus on, this is a phenomenal economy to be a job seeker, right? There are tons of jobs out there, and a lot of them are great paying jobs at amazing companies. And so the good news is let's start with the problem of abundance, right? So as we talk about challenges, and if we frame it in terms of challenges, I'd say the areas to focus on, or where people need to focus on from a challenge standpoint, is which one, particularly among options, represents the best growth opportunity. There's a tendency to get really myopically focused on short-term compensation gains or titles or prestige with a role, and not always which one represents the best growth opportunity, which one's going to challenge somebody professionally to develop and expand their skill set.
Yeah, but the most fulfillment.
Yeah. And the second thing too, and this may be the bigger one really, is getting a feel for the team and culture they're going to work in. A lot of times, particularly if you're interviewing with a medium to large size company, you're going through a corporate recruiting function, the hiring manager, and so on. And you don't really get exposure and a feel for the team you're going to work in. And I'd really say people need to push for and try and, at least in the interview process, as they move through the loop, to try and sit down with someone who'd be their peer or peers on their team. And even better, if they can get it into some sort of social setting, like a lunch or a coffee meeting, something outside the kind of normal office interview feel, so they can really get a feel for what the team dynamic is like.
That's such a good point. I work with a lot of folks in IT, and if I had to sort of think about what is the main push behind them wanting to leave nowadays, it's that they're not happy with the work environment. It's not necessarily a job; it's the work environment. But it is tough. It's tough in the office to sort of get a read on people. So pulling them, and also getting people that have left, right? Because they might give you the unvarnished truth, and then you can weigh it against what people.
Sorry, Virginia, I cut you off.
No, go ahead. No, you.
I was going to say, at the risk of sounding like a commercial for LinkedIn, these days you can usually find someone who knows someone, right? Who's worked there or been in that organization. And people are typically willing to help. And a lot of times you can, to your point, really get kind of the inside scoop on what things are like there. And even better if you can get a sense for that particular team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that if the economy continues to stay robust in this sector, we're going to keep seeing that. And, certainly 10 years ago, people were only leaving when they were laid off, but now people have some more choices. And so they're exploring their options.
You're spot on.
So what about, is there something that you find, clients that do start to look or just it sort of catches them off guard, maybe surprises them?
Yeah, there's a number of things. I know I don't get to talk forever, so I'll focus on one or two. One is just how competitive the job market is right now. I think people know, but when they peel the covers back a little bit and really look into the market, they get a sense of just how competitive it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are positions we're trying to fill right now where there are literally 15 open jobs for every candidate on the market. And I'm not exaggerating. And we regularly see multiples north of 10 jobs for every candidate for a lot of the, very hard to find, very sought after skill sets. And the talent is in a position of power that clients are surprised by. And a lot of clients aren't even prepared necessarily for the fact that they need to sell the candidates on why their job is the one they should take. There's very much this shift in power in a lot of cases, and people need to pay clients in particular. We really have started getting into coaching them around their hiring process to make sure they view it as a sales opportunity and selling the candidate on that role.
It is just, I've been writing resumes for a million years, and I have to say, it's so nice to see the shift in power to my clients, because for so long it just felt like it felt like the reverse. And, that's not happening across all industries, but you're right. In IT, the people with those unique skill sets they're big commodities. They're hot commodities. And, I think I'm happy to hear that people are recognizing the need to welcome them and make it an enticing opportunity.
Well, and if you look at what's great, and I couldn't agree with you more, is if you look at the short term, go forward, there's no short term fix to this, right? The talent gap problem is not going away anytime soon. So this dynamic is only going to get more substantial.
Yeah, you're probably right.
There's one other thing I'd highlight too, if I can, on the client surprise piece. And I really wanted to insert this because it's become a hot topic. It's one we as a company are trying to take some thought leadership on, is the desire for remote telecommuting flexibility in jobs, particularly in tech jobs. Urbanization is clearly driving up, cost of living and commute times and people being stuck in traffic. And, if you're in a hot market like DC or Atlanta or San Francisco, not only is the cost of living shooting up, but people don't want to spend an hour in traffic each way to work every day.
The gridlock is unbearable.
Yeah, and we laugh about it as a team, but it's almost become that work from home, or at least a hybrid, right? I think the mistake employers do is they view it as an absolute of somebody either only wants to work from home or in the office. But the reality is a hybrid model is more than appropriate and supported. But that will oftentimes be the first question we get asked by tech talent is, does this have to be on site? And if it's fully on site, you'd be amazed how many times they immediately qualify themselves out of the job.
And do you feel like companies are jumping on board with embracing that? I would imagine embracing it allows you to pull from a more, widespread job pool or talent pool.
Virginia, you're spot on, right? That's exactly it. And so some have absolutely embraced it, and some are somewhere in between. They want the hybrid approach. The ones who haven't embraced it, honestly, we a lot of times either won't engage as a staffing company, or we'll say, look, maybe you should source this for yourself for a while, and we'll come back after you've struggled to fill it for 3 months, because you're going to struggle to fill it.
Yeah.
And we try to let them understand, here's what the candidate pool looks like if you need this person on site. But if you're willing to be flexible, here's what your candidate pool looks like. And they're amazed at the difference in options.
Who knows what will happen by the time this podcast gets published. But I was talking to a colleague of mine, and we were saying, if this coronavirus stuff kicks off and people have to shut down or make their workforces remote, it's going to propel a lot of people that were skeptics of remote workforces into, at least maybe testing it and seeing that it maybe in fact does work.
Yeah, it's. I shouldn't say it's interesting how these types of situations surface these types of topics, right?
Yeah.
And the number one pushback I hear companies make when they talk about remote or telecommuting work, we call it distributed work now. We feel like that's a better term. But the one pushback you hear is concern about accountability and knowing whether employees are engaged and working. And I guess I'd push back and say, if you need them to be in the office to know whether they're engaged and working, then you probably haven't hired the right people. Yeah.
Maybe you need another method for measuring accountability than eyeballs on what's on their screen and what they're doing. Yep. No, I agree. I've been working remotely since 1999 with the most slowest, connection I've ever heard. It was awful. It used to take me 20 minutes just to connect, but I was allowed to do it once a week. So tell me, flipping the equation to the, I guess you could answer it both ways, to the job seeker side. Is there something that just drives you most nuts when it comes to, placing job seekers with your clients?
Yeah, I guess there's one thing, which is, because we're in a gig economy, we'll call it, or a state of the economy where there's a lot of contractors and people are moving in and out of roles fairly quickly, to your point earlier, and bouncing around. I think a lot of times I'll see job seekers forget that genuine enthusiasm and passion for a client's mission is important to them, right? It's for a lot of companies, it's a core tenet of their culture.
Yeah, and that's a really good point.
Having them respect and understand that and really appreciate it is really important. And we try to remind them of that periodically, especially because you can take a very commoditized approach as a contractor, bouncing around and lose sight of how important that culture and that deal is to the company.
You're right, because that's a deal breaker for, I think for clients, someone that doesn't seem to at least respect it.
And it has a negative impact on their culture. If you're in with their teams who are full-time or who've been there for a while, right, it can have an adverse culture effect that you just don't want to be a part of.
Yeah, no, that's true. Do you recommend that they weave that into some of their interview speak, at least showing that they understand it and that they've done the homework around it?
Yeah, funny you say that. Yeah, we it's interesting. We actually try to help there and I don't want to make this an advertisement for SC by any stretch, but we certainly try to understand what makes the company unique, their culture, their selling points, so that we can educate the interviewees, the candidates through the process so that they can both understand and appreciate it. And to your point, ask the right questions during the process to show that they care.
Oh, no, that's wonderful.
So we try to help them out there.
So what advice do you give? I'm sure you get people banging on your doors looking for roles and opportunities. What advice do you give people that are looking to make a career move? How do you recommend they get started?
Yeah, it's funny. This is a personal one and a great question, but I really try to encourage people to get out of their comfort zone. My consistent piece of feedback I like to tell people, particularly younger people, now that I've been around for a while and have gray hair on my temple, is that if the job they're considering doesn't scare them a bit, then they're probably not looking at the right job. If they have no concerns about their ability to do it, it's probably not enough of a stretch to really push them and grow them in the right ways. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting, that somebody that went to like beauty school becomes a lion tamer.
Right. That's too much of a stretch.
Just make sure that whatever they're doing really pushes them some out of their comfort zone, that it's going to challenge them in ways to grow, and that they're not going, oh, this is a piece of cake, right? I can do this all day.
No, and you're right, because people that get stuck in a situation where they are just sort of maintaining and not building or fixing or learning, acquiring new skill sets, they get bored and then they come to me because they want out.
Yeah. It's and look, it's human psychology, right? People like a comfort zone. A lot of people don't want to be pushed outside that. But from a career perspective, particularly if you're somebody who's ambitious and aspires for a pretty high ceiling, then you've got to continuously push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And challenge yourself to do things that aren't just a chip shot.
Yeah. And that could, I sort of feel like it could be sort of just maybe not a huge leap, but a pivot where you're taking a lot of the same skills that you've always had, but you're learning one new component. It depends on how small or how large your comfort zone is, I suppose, in terms of what you're willing to learn. Yeah. No, that's really good advice. So what about someone who comes to you who has been job hunting and is just not going well? Do you give a lot of guidance on that kind of a topic?
Yeah, we do see this a good bit. And I'd love to give a one-size-fits-all answer.
There's not, I know.
And it depends on why are they struggling, right? It's interesting. And normally if we can get into the conversation and have just some good back and forth, it's like, hey, are you being realistic about the jobs you're pursuing, right? Are they the right skill set for either your background or tie-in? Because a lot of times, to your point, somebody's trying to make a complete pivot, and the resume they're putting out there and the pedigree they have in no way kind of ties towards where they're going. In which case, I'd say, hey, my advice to you would be talk to as many people as you can who are in the space you aspire to be in, right? I joke with people, I'll say, load up a Starbucks card and take as many people as you can to coffee. Right? Because what you're going to find is if somebody knows you, somebody thinks you're credible, somebody thinks especially if you are trying to make that pivot, if the reason you're struggling is because you're trying to move into a completely new space, then you need somebody who knows you, who knows enough about your ability to deliver, who's willing to make that leap for you and help you make that leap, either as, validation and kind of going to others and saying, look, I'll back this person, that they can deliver, or they're the ones who are hiring and willing to take that chance on you.
Yeah, but at the very least, they become your internal champions, because it's so much quicker to land a job when you've got someone on the inside that's advocating for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and luckily Starbucks is not that expensive, so you can load it up and you can go pretty far with a $25, $30 gift card. So what, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but what words of wisdom might you have for people that can really go in a number of different directions? And I know on the tech side that happens all the time. Very diverse skills. Their role could go in a number of different ways. How do you recommend they focus, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It really does depend on what they want to do and what their long-term goals are. My team at SC gets tired of hearing this statement, but I say it all the time, and I guess I'll open with this and we'll see where it goes. But I always tell people, I say, make your short-term decisions based on long-term thinking. And it's very easy, and especially in the job world, the career world, to focus on slightly higher pay, slightly better title, slightly more prestige in a role, whatever. And yes, we did touch on this earlier, but if you really do focus on skill development, if you focus on the challenge that you want to go tackle, then you have a much better shot. Particularly if you're ambitious and motivated and aspire for big things. And there's a million great success stories out there about leaders or people who are considered, executives at companies who decided to tackle the hard challenge that was out there, the job that no one else wanted or that no one else thought could be successful. And they took it and they made it successful. Right. Yeah. And so really just, again, making short-term career decisions based on long-term thinking usually guides the right outcome.
Well, because what I get with my clients, regardless of industry, are people that they don't want to paint themselves in their corner. So they don't want to position themselves in a targeted fashion for fear of being pigeonholed.
Well, and there's a healthy debate right now, right, about the generalist versus the specialist.
The specialist, right? Exactly.
Which path is going to be most fruitful in the future, right? Or people?
Well, and I say at this point, people think they want a specialist, but then they're delighted to find out you're a generalist.
Well, look, if I'm going on the operating table, I want a specialist. But if we're dealing with corporate America, generalist might do, depending on. So it really does depend on the
well,
job,
and what I've seen, and you tell me how you view this when you see their people's resumes or when you're recruiting up for them on LinkedIn. If you position yourself as too much of a generalist, then people have a hard time sort of figuring out how you could be a specialist to meet a specific company's needs.
Yeah, you of all people on the entire planet would probably appreciate this discussion, right? Around it's a resume challenge, right? Because for a lot of companies fall down on their hiring process, right? And they get so bent between the hiring manager and the internal recruiter around a job description and not what success in role looks like. It becomes the basis of the dialogue becomes the job description.
Right. And then you get the unicorn job description that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, exactly. And you lose good candidates because of it, because they get lost in the machine, because certain bullets on that job description didn't check the right boxes on their resume. Right.
Yeah. No, very true. It's frustrating for them. And so I encourage my clients to bypass the applying online and talk to people, find out about opportunities beforehand, because at the end of the day, people recognize when there's someone who could be a good fit for a specific role. And I've even found where they create roles accordingly. And then the job descriptions actually mirrors your talent specifically versus trying to fit yourself into the job posting that they've created.
Yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah, I love that when it happens. Yeah. So I'm not sure how much this next question is something you have to deal with. Discrimination is something that people are always concerned. I tend to mostly help people manage age discrimination, too old or too young, but certainly it exists with ethnicity, gender, all of that. Is that a conversation that you are having in your world? Tell me, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's a conversation. Well, first, what an important topic. Love that you asked this, and I mean that. I don't think the good news is I don't think there's ever been a better time for this dialogue, right? Or more necessity for a diverse workforce. And what I love as a parent and as somebody who focuses on the career world, on the job world, what I love about this discussion is I don't think there's ever been a more positive time for this discussion. If you look at the demographics of the U.S. population, diversity isn't an opportunity discussion; it's an inevitability.
Yeah.
Right. And so the companies you see companies who are getting there faster and focused on it at a competitive advantage. And so it's almost that it started to flip in a lot of ways, where you see the companies that have strategic CEO level initiatives focused on diversity. And in a lot of cases, that now rolls into sustainability at a CEO level.
Yeah, you're right.
Those are the companies thriving, right? And really what's even better now is we're starting to see a shift in mindset of how people think about it. And it's not always women lean in, it's men lean out, right? And what the norm needs to shift a bit.
And are you, I've certainly seen that, I guess, because they have the funds to advertise it, right? With bigger companies. Are you seeing it trickle down to more mid-sized companies as well?
Yeah, it really has. And to your point, age is kind of one of the newer, more interesting ones that's bubbled into this topic. And I realize that it's controversial, but yeah, everybody is absolutely focused on this, not just, the Fortune 100, the Fortune 500, where it does become, a core part of like media relations and CEO priorities and so on. Right now, the good news is people are so focused on talent that those other things almost become irrelevant. And I mean that in the good way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is talent wins out and skill set wins out. And it forces all those other things to become far less.
They're much more minor. Yeah. And I think that's a function of a really strong economy, where you said the talent, if there's a big talent shortage, you're going to start to overlook those sorts of things, which is good. No, you're right.
Yeah. The personal note I'd throw in there is that clearly we'd love to see more women in tech. It's still heavily weighted towards men, but again, there's a lot of initiatives
changing.
Going on.
Yeah, there's women. Yeah. There's women who code. There's all those groups. It's impressive. So someone comes to you as a job seeker and says, I'm getting ready to make a change, what are one or two tools that I absolutely must have during this job search journey? What say you?
Okay, can I suggest an approach rather than a tool?
Yes, you may. I'll allow it.
All right, awesome. One, do the work. Don't spray and pray, applying your resume everywhere and applying on every website. But focus, be much more targeted. To your point exactly earlier, talk to people you know. Don't just sit there and apply on a bunch of company websites. Be very targeted. Do your homework. Research companies, research people, have meaningful conversations. And when you sit down with them, listen. As you talk to people, don't go there to talk and sell them on you. Go there to listen and understand. And get a good appreciation and empathy for what opportunities they have and how they can help. And just do the work.
Do you have any advice for people that say, I don't know that many people, I'm new, this and that. How to help them get over that hump to be able to take those people out with their Starbucks card?
Yeah. Do you mean how to approach people?
Yeah.
Gosh, this is tough for me. I'm a natural extrovert. My wife picks on me for it all the time. So I'll talk to anybody. People've got to realize that you've got to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Most people's hearts are absolutely in the right place. Most people will happily help you if they think they can. You've just got to ask, right? You've just got to reach out. And don't be afraid to approach anybody, no matter what their title, no matter what their role, whether they're a celebrity, whether they're a CEO, or whether they're a janitor, executive assistant. Most people are more than happy to help if you're just willing to tell them how they can help.
That's right. And I do
offer help. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. It's two-way street. And your point about asking for help versus asking for a job, I think, is an important one, because people. I've had people don't love to be approached with, are you guys hiring? But people are more willing to, not everyone, but most people are willing to offer help if they think that they have something that they can offer. And look, you don't need everyone to answer you. You only need a couple people to help you, because then they can give you additional names of people, and it can snowball from there.
Well, yeah, and can we flip that too and say you need to be the other side of that equation and say, how can I always help others, right? And if you go in with that mindset of constantly being willing to step forward, to have coffee, to help others, to see how you can help them, then, well, I'll sound a little spiritual here, but the universe will pay it back.
Yeah, it's good karma coming back at you.
When you flip it over. Yeah, put it out there and people will help you when you need it.
I agree. So you guys are the growth has been tremendous at SD. Tell me what's next for you all, or what's next for you. My favorite question.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's so for the segments we serve, we really are kind of defined by this scarcity problem, right? There's not enough talent to fill the jobs that the market has available. And so we've constantly looked at ways to address the scarcity problem. But at the same time, we see an opportunity to connect into another community issue, which is income inequality. And by that, I mean, there's a meaningful portion of the urban communities in America where college is not a financial option for them. There's not a path to meaningful technology skills. And so and for a lot of these major cities, the odds of ever moving out of poverty are literally less than 10%.
Can you tell me that Charlotte is that where we live in Charlotte, we have a pretty poor ranking in terms of income inequality? People being able to
Charlotte
get out?
Is actually, you're spot on. Charlotte is dead last of the 50 biggest cities in the country at less than 4% chance of moving out. And so for us, this is a crime, right? When we live in a world where our average salary for a candidate we place is over $100,000 a year, and there's a meaningful portion of our community that not only wants those opportunities, but is hungry for those opportunities and eager to pursue those opportunities, then it'd be a crime to not pursue and really make that happen and do what we can to enable it. So we created an initiative we call Elevate. And for the Charlotte market specifically, it's called Elevate Charlotte, but more broadly, it's called Elevate. And we're focused on solving that supply problem with people who want to move out of poverty, who want to embrace technology as a career path for them, and really providing a easy to consume path forward out.
Are you working with schools, or who are you working with to make that happen?
Yeah, we're working with a couple different organizations. One is Red Ventures, which if you're familiar with the Charlotte community, Red Ventures is a classic entrepreneurial success story and their Road to Hire program. We're also working with Goodwill, which has an amazing technology training program and is focused on getting tech skills into, again, people who want to attend school and participate in these programs. And what they do with those programs is they actually source people out of the community colleges, out of the local high school programs, and so on. And then what we're doing is marrying them together with our clients who have the tech needs and the desire to take these folks once they've been trained and move them into a job where they have both mentorship as well as a cohort, right? People who've been through the program with them who can socially help support them and realize that for a lot of these people, this is their first time in a corporate job, so to speak. And so that social support structure is so relevant and so necessary to increasing their odds of success.
Wow. So if people want to learn more about you, SC, and more about Elevate, where do you suggest they go?
Please email me. As you can tell, I love to talk. So I'd say I'm available at adam@betterwithsc.com, or they can reach us through the website as well, but they can always email me directly at adam@betterwithsc. And excited to talk about this topic and frankly, excited to help anybody if I can be of assistance.
Oh gosh, well, Adam, thank you so much. I love your perspective. It's just always so nice talking to someone who's on the other side of the hiring table. So I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day.
Virginia, thank you so much. I love your podcast again and appreciate the chance to be on it.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's SCIM online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.